First impressions. They take only seconds to make, but they are nearly impossible to change. Take these two. Who would you hire? You would want more information before deciding for sure, but you've probably already got a gut feeling about who should get the job. These impressions are based on our experiences, our values, and our expectations, yet we can form them almost instantly. Interviewers trust those feelings, and most employers will tell you that their first impressions seldom change. Does that surprise you? It shouldn't. Employers usually have only 30 minutes to decide if you are the person they want to hire, though the truth is it usually doesn't take that long. Still not convinced? Imagine you are the manager of a bank and you're looking to hire a new teller. Would you hire this man or this one? This person or this person? Too easy, of course, but what about this one? Would you hire him or her? Is that last one hard to decide? They haven't said a word, and yet you are already forming an opinion about them, just as employers are already forming an opinion about you when you first walk in the door, even before you walk in the door. Making that opinion a positive one is your key to a good interview, and most likely landing the job. The interview, after all, is the employer's chance to evaluate those parts of you that don't come through on a resume, your confidence and enthusiasm, your ability to interact with others and to present yourself professionally. Employers can tell a lot about these things in just the first minute of meeting you. This video will show you what it takes to make a good first impression in a job interview. Along the way, you will not only learn the keys to impressing an employer from the start, but will discover a few things not to do. Feel free to pause the video at any time to jot down notes, answer questions, or discuss what you've seen. Most importantly, be sure to note specific behaviors that you need to work on to make sure you are the one shaking hands with the boss at the end. So how long do you have to make a good first impression? Take a deep breath. That was it, right there. In the time it takes you to breathe, an employer has already formed some impression of you. Consider this job candidate. What do you think about him? What can you tell about his personality already? Is he professional? Courteous? Do you think he would get along well with others? Would you want him talking to your customers or clients? Do you think he meets all the employer's expectations? Our first impressions tend to stick. While employers may not make a decision to hire you based on the first 5 seconds, their initial impression will last the longest, and it will color everything you say and do during the remainder of the interview.
There are so many critical moments in the job search process, but second for second, nothing matters as much as that first moment during an interview. If interviewers notice a few things they like about you from the start, they will assume that you have other desirable qualities. This creates a lot of positive energy that can carry you through the rest of the interview.
So just how long do you have to make a first impression? Is it 3 minutes or 1? 30 seconds or 10? The truth is, some experts believe you have even less than that. Research has shown that it takes only 1/10 of a second to form an opinion about a stranger simply based on looks alone. What's more important than how many seconds you have is how you can make the most of them. And for that, we need to consider our first impression ABCs. A, your appearance, the way you dress and groom, how you present yourself. B, your behaviors, the way you act, including any habits or mannerisms you might have. And finally, C, your characteristics, those personal traits and attitudes that express who you are as a person and what kind of worker you'll be and how you'll fit in on the job.
Once you're in the door, suddenly a lot of things matter that didn't so much before when you were bullet points on a resume. Your appearance, your speech, your manners, your personality, your attitude, these are all on display, and they all feed into the impression you make.
If you follow your ABCs, if you dress and groom professionally, act appropriately, and show that you are confident, enthusiastic, and mature, your first impression will be a great one. Let's spend some time looking at each of these more closely, starting with how you look when you walk into that interview.
Mr. Jameson, I'm Miss Berkeley.
Pleasure to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you. Won't you come into my office?
Freeze there. That seemed to go well enough, but did you catch the expression on the part of the employer? That sense that something was a little off? Maybe it was the ponytail, or the earring, or the fact that his tie wasn't on quite right, or his shirt was wrinkled, or maybe he was wearing too much cologne. Mr. Jameson may be a highly qualified candidate on paper, but he has likely made an impression that will be hard to overcome, no matter how well the rest of the interview goes.
Unless you're applying to be a catalog model, most employers won't hire you just because you look the part. But they will dismiss you if your appearance strays too far from their expectations. There are rules, both written and unwritten, for how you should dress and groom for an interview. And straying too far from them can ruin your chances. For that reason, it is usually better to stay conservative.
Some of it may be picky, but you never know what an employer will be looking for. Of course, a tattoo on your forehead or a blue spiked mohawk isn't a selling point, but what about that bright yellow shirt? Or that cartoon character tie? How about candy apple red nail polish? How much perfume is too much? How short a skirt is too short? Are nose rings completely out of the question? Your appearance is actually one time where you don't want to stand out from the crowd. Employers are usually conservative. They want you to reflect well on the company, so it's best to leave any extreme personal style at home. In most cases, it's best to play it safe. For men, that means a dark suit with a light colored shirt. Choose a tie that is complementary but won't distract the interviewer. For women, a conservative business suit with a light colored shirt or blouse and dress shoes with modest heels are the norm. Your appearance should be neat, which means no stains or wrinkles. Many job seekers have a limited wardrobe, so take care of the nice clothes you have. If interview attire is hard to come by, consider borrowing clothes or finding professional attire at the secondhand shops, such as Goodwill.
There is no rule on how you should look for an interview. Sometimes it depends on the job. But even if you're interviewing for a job that will require uniforms or has a casual dress code, it's still best to dress up for the interview. An interviewer with a construction company might not expect you to wear a suit, but a nice shirt and jacket wouldn't hurt. Show the employer that you care about yourself and the image you will present to customers and clients.
Appearance matters in almost any job. Most employers want people who look professional and who take care of themselves, people whose image reflects positively on the organization. Follow these steps for ensuring that your appearance will make a great first impression. Dress professionally. Keep your shoes shined, your clothes ironed, and your choices conservative. Be sure to iron your clothes the night before. Don't wait until the last minute. Pay attention to your grooming. Wash and brush or style your hair in a conservative manner. Shave or trim facial hair. Be sure to wear deodorant and brush your teeth. You might even consider a breath mint on the way. Be conservative with makeup and keep perfume and cologne to a minimum. Trim your nails. Be conservative with jewelry as well. Earrings and a necklace are appropriate for women if they aren't distracting and don't make noise. Finally, in most cases, tattoos should be covered whenever possible. Remember, being remembered primarily for how you looked in an interview is not a good thing. So who would you hire? Him or her? Her or her? Him or him? You may know already, but employers realize appearance isn't everything. More often than not, it is our actions that help define who we are.
Hi, I'm Tasha. We spoke on the phone. It's nice to finally meet you.
Jim. James. Nice to meet you, too.
So I hope you didn't have any trouble finding the place.
No, not really.
Well, I thought we would just start by taking a little tour, and I can tell you a little bit about the position, and then you can tell me about yourself.
Oh. Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, you're the boss.
Nice suit, nice shoes, hair combed, but there's a good chance he got all dressed up for nothing. He may look the part, but he's not acting the part. In a job interview, you want to give the impression that you are confident, friendly, and perhaps most importantly, excited about the possibility of working there. That means watching your behaviors. Your behaviors, including your habits and mannerisms, aren't easily conveyed in a resume or cover letter. Often they aren't on display until the interview, and then they can really stand out. Let's consider a few more examples.
Well, I first found out about your company through the internet, and then I did a little research of my own, and I saw that your sales had grown for the past few years, and I thought maybe this was the kind of place that could use someone with my talents.
Well, let's see. I'm Amanda Berkshire, and I've been a nurse for 4 years now, and I really like helping people and taking care of them and their families. I've heard great things about your hospital, like how well the nursing staff gets along and how just helpful everyone is, so I decided to apply.
Everyone always says I'm really great with customers. I think mostly because I know how to listen to people, but also because I understand that the customer's always right, even when they're really wrong, which actually turns out to be most of the time. Like this one time, it was the lunch rush, and all the tables were full because we were offering this special where you could get any sandwich, a cup of soup for $5, which is really good since most of our sandwiches are just at least that much. So it's kind of like getting a free cup of soup, you know? But you have to be there in order before 2 or else the special doesn't count. And this guy comes in, you could tell he was kind of in a hurry.
So, I told my boss that we could really increase productivity if we just purchased some new equipment and restructured the work schedule. And he totally put me in charge of the whole thing.
I don't know. I guess I never really thought about it. To be honest, I'm not sure I have any weaknesses.
These examples may seem extreme, but you might be surprised to learn what behaviors, habits, and mannerisms past interviewers have noticed about you. You may not fidget, but maybe you keep your arms crossed in front of you. You may not mumble, but perhaps you sometimes speak too loud or too fast. From the moment you step through the door, your behaviors are on display. How you walk, how you stand. Do you make eye contact? Do you keep your hands still in your pockets or in your lap? Do you mumble or whisper? Can you sit still? Do you offer a firm but not bone-crushing handshake? Do you act nervously or shy or come off as loud and obnoxious? Do you speak clearly and with enthusiasm? Employers watch for these behaviors because they help to show the kind of worker you will be. They show off your communication and people skills. They show how much confidence you have and how comfortable you are working under stress. If employers see negative behaviors in the interview, they will assume those same behaviors will impact your job performance as well.
And when it comes to your interview behavior, there are some obvious pitfalls and some less obvious ones. Obviously, you don't want to chew your nails or play with your hair in an interview. You shouldn't answer cell phone calls or check your messages. In fact, you should turn your phone off before you go in. Harder are the habits you can't control because you aren't aware of them, like if you are naturally soft-spoken or if you talk too much with your hands. These are things that you will have to work on. Practice avoiding any negative habits or behaviors at home first.
Of course, making a good first impression is as much about displaying positive behaviors as it is avoiding negative ones. Let's take a look. Stop. Notice the walk. Back straight, chin high, confident. The smile, friendly and enthusiastic. The handshake, firm but not overbearing. And finally, of course, the eyes.
When making a first impression, eye contact is incredibly important. You don't want to gaze unflinchingly into the interviewer's eyes, but you need to maintain eye contact throughout the interview. It shows that you're a good listener. If you don't make eye contact, you come across as shy and reserved, or worse, as untrustworthy, as if you're hiding something.
Like eye contact, body language can convey messages that your verbal responses don't. Sitting up straight and on the edge of your seat shows the interviewer that you are interested and attentive. Keeping your hands and the rest of your body under control shows you can stay calm under pressure. So what specific behaviors should you be on the lookout for? For starters, be sure to shake hands firmly with the interviewer and make eye contact. Smile from the moment you walk in. Most employers would rather hire friendly people. Use good posture. Speak so that you can be understood. And watch your body language. No slouching or rolling of the eyes. Finally, use your manners. Please and thank you are easy ways to impress an employer. On the other side, try to avoid any distracting habits such as chewing gum or biting your nails. Don't call the interviewer by his or her first name unless you are asked to. Avoid using any inappropriate language or any jokes that could be considered offensive. Don't ramble. Try to stay focused on what the interviewer is saying or asking. Never answer your cell phone during an interview. And finally, don't interrupt. Be a good listener and wait for your chance to speak. Remember, your goal in the first few minutes of an interview is to convince an employer that you have the stuff to do the job. Ultimately, that means having the personal characteristics that employers look for most. Which of these two people would you call confident? Which of these would you characterize as enthusiastic? How about friendly? Employers often find they can tell a lot about an individual's personality based on the first few minutes of an interview. In fact, interviewers assume that the characteristics they see in an interview, both positive and negative, give them a clue to the kind of employee you will be. Your goal in the opening stages of an interview is to convince the employer to look beyond your resume and cover letter to see that you are the right person with the right personality for the job.
Your personal characteristics are on display during an interview, and employers are usually on the lookout for certain key traits that they value. For example, are you punctual, energetic? Do you get along well with others? Are you professional? Can you communicate effectively? Employers use the interview to help them decide if you have these desirable characteristics. And if you have undesirable ones, that would keep them from hiring you.
Showing off your personality isn't as easy as wearing the right suit or not biting your nails. It's about the total impression you convey, from how you look and how you interact with others, to the answers you give, the questions you ask, and the stories you tell. It's about conveying a sense of who you are as a person and as a potential employee. Of course, employers aren't going to pick on every aspect of your personality. They usually just want to know if you have a few key traits. For example, are you punctual and organized? Are you positive and enthusiastic? Are you friendly and courteous? Are you respectful and professional? Are you a skilled communicator? And finally, are you confident in your abilities? Let's look at an example of someone whose first impression doesn't exactly meet those expectations.
Yes, may I help you?
Yeah, I'm Marjorie, here for my interview.
Marjorie.
Stillwell. I'm supposed to meet Mr. Wilson at 2. Can you tell him I've been out here waiting for a while?
Mr. Wilson, Miss Stillwell's here to see you. He'll be right in. You can have a seat.
Fine.
Miss Stillwell. I'm Patrick Wilson. You can call me Pat. It's nice to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any problems finding the office?
Yeah, the office is a lot smaller than I thought it would be. Hard to see it from the road.
Well, I guess we're not that big yet, but the company is growing. If you like, you can gather your things and we can step into my office.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's probably about enough. In her first 2 minutes, did Ms. Stillwell give the impression of being an organized, confident, energetic, and professional person with sound communication skills? I'm sure the interviewer didn't think so either. Now she'll have to spend the rest of the interview trying to convince Mr. Wilson that his first impression of her was wrong. Let's see how she might have handled it differently.
Yes, may I help you?
Hi, I'm Marjorie Stillwell. I have an appointment with Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Wilson, Miss Stillwell's here to see you. He'll be right in. You can have a seat.
Thank you, Miss...
Just call me Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. Pleasure to meet you.
Miss Stillwell.
Please, call me Marge.
Hi, Marge. I'm Pat. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, Pat. Thanks for fitting me in today.
No problem. Did you have any trouble finding the office?
Not really. Actually, on the way in, I noticed a small pond and woods behind the building. It's a nice view.
It's not much, but we seem to like it here. Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
A smile, eye contact, good manners, a compliment, a firm handshake. They seem so trivial, but they all add up and set the tone for the rest of your interview. Who knows whether or not Marge has the skills and experience to get hired, but at the very least, she was going into the interview with the right attitude.
Not every employer is looking for the exact same thing personality-wise. Someone hiring a bank teller may be more interested in how organized you are. Someone looking to hire a salesperson may specifically watch for your energy and communication skills. A restaurant owner may look for candidates who obviously have a good people skills and who are friendly and respectful of others. You want to show that you have these traits, but don't push yourself too hard to be something you're not. Odds are the employer will see through the disguise. Besides, you'll be a lot more comfortable just being yourself.
So what can you do to make sure you are conveying the type of personal characteristics employers are looking for? Most of it you already know. For starters, be friendly or at least polite to those around you. Show up on time or even a little before to show you are punctual. Make sure you are well organized. Keep a copy of your resume handy and keep any other materials you've brought in a briefcase or bag. Be sure to pack a notebook and a couple of pens the night before. Be confident. If you aren't convinced you can do the job, the employer certainly won't be. Speak clearly and keep your chin up. Try to establish a rapport with the interviewer. Don't be afraid to make a little small talk at the beginning of the interview. Find something in the interviewer's office to remark on, such as a shared interest. Be complimentary, but don't overdo it. Asking good questions can have much the same effect. Remember your manners. Thank the interviewer for the opportunity. And finally, and perhaps most difficult of all, just try to relax.
Interviews are stressful. If you can stay relaxed and confident during an interview, the employer will assume that you are more capable of handling the problems that come with the job. In addition, when you're relaxed, you have an easier time communicating, thinking of good answers. If you are too nervous and jittery, you will likely make the interviewer uncomfortable as well, which doesn't help your chances.
It may sound like a lot, especially for only the first few minutes of an interview, but most of it is just common sense. The bottom line is to be yourself. Just make sure it's the most professional, friendly, and positive self that you can be. Of course, not every interview situation is the same. Some interviews last only 15 minutes. Others can last for hours. While most interviews generally take place in a work or office setting, they sometimes happen over coffee or lunch. Add this to the fact that some interviewers are simply better at their job than others, and you soon realize that not everything can be planned for. Regardless of the interview situation that you find yourself in, the basic ABCs of first impressions apply. However, there are a few specific situations we'd like to touch on in a little more depth. It's possible that the first impression you make won't be in person. It could be over the phone. You don't have to wear a tie to a phone interview, of course, unless it makes you feel more professional. But don't assume that just because an employer can't see you, that she's not forming an opinion about you. Employers make just as many assumptions about you based on your voice, speech, and verbal messages as your physical appearance.
You can actually tell a lot about a person through a phone interview, whether they are friendly or professional, if they can communicate effectively, if they get nervous easily. A lot of your personality comes out during the course of a conversation. Just because they seem easier or less stressful doesn't mean you shouldn't be on your best behavior.
During a phone interview, many of the same rules apply. Follow these tips for your next phone interview to make a positive impression. Don't be late for the call or make the employer call you back. Use your manners. Don't interrupt the conversation or stop to answer another call. Use the tone of your voice to project enthusiasm, energy, and confidence. Don't whisper or mumble. Don't speak too fast or slow. Just like in a face-to-face interview, don't be afraid of making a little small talk in the beginning. Follow the interviewer's lead. Avoid any potentially distracting speech habits, such as long pauses or too many ums and ahs. Those could be even more glaring during a phone interview. Be respectful and professional at all times. It can even help to sit up straight and take notes while you are talking. Finally, be sure to avoid distractions. Turn off the TV. Make sure there is no one around to interrupt you, and don't eat or drink anything while you are talking. Though uncommon, group interviews are becoming more popular. Unlike in a traditional one-on-one where you have the interviewer's undivided attention, in a group interview you are competing directly with other candidates to make the best impression. You do want to stand out from the crowd, quite literally in this case, but only in a good way. For example,
You were all here for the group interview, I hope.
Yes, we are.
I'm glad everyone could make it. Hope nobody had any trouble getting here.
No, no trouble.
Actually, traffic was really bad on State Street.
Traffic's always bad on State Street. Everyone knows not to take State Street. You should always go up 34th.
Well, the important thing is everyone's here. So I'd like to take just a few minutes for us all to get to know each other. Who would like?
Letitia Hardy. I just recently quit my job as a sales manager for a retail outlet. I have over 12 years of experience in sales and an advanced degree in business management.
let's stop there. Confident? Yes. Enthusiastic? Certainly. But is she a team player? Will she get along with her coworkers? Is she able to listen and communicate effectively with others? Even after only a couple of minutes, you can probably answer these questions.
Employers use group interviews because they want to see how job candidates interact with their peers. Often they are given a problem or an exercise to work through. They look for people who are confident and enthusiastic, who are natural leaders, but also who know how to work as part of a team, who can delegate and take and give criticism constructively, and who respect the other candidates' opinions. Making a first impression in a group interview means balancing your own self-confidence and enthusiasm with the need to be a team player.
To make a positive first impression in a group interview, follow these tips. Be courteous and polite to your fellow candidates. Introduce yourself, shake their hands, be involved from the start. It can be tempting, especially if you are shy or nervous, to sit back and observe and give everyone else the spotlight, but you will quickly be out of the running if you aren't involved. While you should be enthusiastic and make your credentials known, try to avoid dominating the conversation and never interrupt a fellow candidate. If you are in a situation where you have to work with the other candidate as a part of a group, try to take a leadership role. Encourage the other job candidates. Give positive feedback. Listen attentively. Be yourself. Don't try to copy someone else's answers or behaviors. You have a much better chance of being remembered for who you are rather than that guy who kept repeating what everyone else said. In addition, you may find yourself outnumbered on the other side of the desk. Panel interviews, when more than one interviewer takes part in the process, present their own unique challenges.
In a panel interview, or any situation where you're being interviewed by more than one person, the key is to include everyone. While you should focus on whoever is speaking, make sure your responses are directed at the group. Give each interviewer the same courtesy and respect. Make sure you learn and use everyone's name. Try to make eye contact with each interviewer, and above all, don't be scared. If you're on your best behavior, you can impress 10 employers as easily as you can impress one.
We've talked about the impression you make, but what happens when the impression you get is a bad one? How do you react?
Yeah, well, already 20 minutes behind schedule. Let's see here. Where was it? I know it's stuck in this folder. It has to be here. Here it is. William Rhodes, it says here that you worked for 6 years as a department store manager.
Yep, that's what it says. You read it right.
Well then, why don't you go ahead and tell me about yourself?
In many ways, a bad interviewer is a golden opportunity, a chance for you to steer the conversation. If your interviewer is late or is easily distracted by interruptions, show him how patient you can be, and be sure to refocus his attention back to you with a pointed question or a good example. If the interviewer seems nervous or unresponsive, try making small talk to ease the tension. If the interviewer seems to be asking too many random or personal questions, make it a point to bring your answers back to your work experience and abilities. An interviewer who is unprepared will often be even more impressed by your positive attitude, patience, grace, and professionalism.
Let's go back to Mr. Rhodes and see how he might have handled things differently.
I'm sorry, I got caught in traffic this morning and everything's been off kilter since then. Now, who are you again?
William Rhodes, nice to meet you. And don't worry, it gave me the chance to look over some of your products for the new year. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, well, 20 minutes behind already, behind schedule. Should probably be in here somewhere. I'm pretty sure it's in here. Let's see here. Where was it?
No problem. I've got an extra you can have.
I know, normally I know right where everything is. Okay, says here you worked for 6 years as a department store manager.
Yes, I was assistant manager for only a year before that, but the owner said he was confident I could handle all of the added responsibilities. I'm very good with people, and so much of management is getting your employees to work together, to listen to what they have to say, and to find ways to make things run smoother and more efficiently.
Patience, professionalism, politeness, and a knack for providing specific answers to vague questions. Mr. Rhodes has made an even better impression than the person interviewing him. Now you should have a better sense of what to do during those crucial first few minutes of the interview. But be aware that you probably made an impression before you ever walked in the door. In many ways, our reputations precede us. Employers will already have some impression of you based on the information they have so far. For example, maybe you were recommended by a mutual friend or a colleague. Maybe you spoke with the employer briefly on the phone to set up the interview itself. Or maybe you've been in contact with other members of the organization, people who have already formed their own impression of you and who may have shared it with the employer. The truth is, the employer probably already has some expectations of how you will act before you even walk in the door.
You don't want to sabotage your interview before it even starts. That's why it's important to act professionally at all times. Whether you're dropping off an application with the receptionist or calling to get directions to the office, any kind of contact requires that you look, act, and present your best.
That also means you should be aware of all the information a prospective employer might have access to that could color their impression of you from the start. Information on the internet, particularly social networking sites such as Facebook, can tell an employer a lot about you, such as your hobbies and interests, or things about your family or personal life. All of this information contributes to their impression of you, so it's a good idea to be aware of what's out there and control it. Take another deep breath. Now think about everything you can do in the space of that breath to get an employer's attention, to convince him or her that you are the right candidate for the job. Your appearance, behaviors, and personal characteristics all contribute to that crucial first impression. As the saying goes, you'll never get a second chance to make a first impression, but you do have a chance to make your next first impression a great one.